Ideal Protein is a doctor-designed, coach-led ketogenic weight loss protocol that uses food as medicine to empower you to lose weight and live your healthiest life.
And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show, a podcast brought to you by the Livingston Parish News. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news, and we have a guest back with us today, just a few short months after we met with him last time. Please introduce yourself, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. My name is Devin Gregoire. I am the school board member for Albany District 9.
And we appreciate you being here, sir. Today, we're going to be talking about actually a follow-up to what we talked about just a few months ago. You had a sales and property tax presentation or proposal that was going to the ballot. Things have changed. Things have shifted. So let's first and foremost, let's start at 32,000 feet. What were you proposing before? What changed? And what is your proposal now?
Thank you. Okay. So the original proposal was for a half-cent sales tax and 9 mills, and it was going to be used for construction in the district. And the concept was we were going to use that plus some of our existing revenue that we had already to bond out and build a new school in the Albany district. Something that's expansion room that's desperately needed. As when we got hit with Hurricane Ida, that changed everything because we had infrastructure issues, we had people were recovering, and it wasn't the right time to put that on the ballot. People needed time to recover. So we shifted that from the November ballot to the April ballot. After all of this construction has been going on, and we've been getting the prices and the details of what this cost, what Ida's costing us, what the new construction for the schools that are just now being repaired from the flood. And by the way, there's a ribbon cutting ceremony at Denham Springs Elementary tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody wants to come, that'd be a fantastic, way to see the brand new schools. But the cost of these new schools have increased, and over the last year, construction costs have gone up 45% or better. So with all of the infrastructure issues, all of the issues that are outside of our control, the nationwide issues with wood shortages and labor shortages and things like that, construction costs have basically priced us out of building a new school. So as that adapted and changed, we made the decision to drop the 9 mills and go strictly with the half-cent sales tax and shift the focus of our new constructions to some needed changes and needed expansions within our existing system. So the concept there is we're going to build and we were going to try to add this on to the other project, but now this is just going to be our main focus. So our main focus now is going to be a new gymnasium for the middle school. That has been a school need, a community need for several years now, and it's time. So gymnasium for the middle school. That's going to allow for them to play the games there at the local gym, for places for them to go during the wet weather for PE and things like that. It's also going to allow us to do more basketball tournaments. Thank you. Yeah,
camps, that kind of thing.
Word problems. So yeah, English hard. At camps and tournaments in our area, because we'll actually have 3 gyms available in the one area, so we'll be able to do more AYA and youth league and tournaments. The second thing is a track and field area. The east side of the parish has nothing as far as track and field. And so we're going to build a full track and field stadium with all of the events available. We'll have practice areas. So Springfield and Holden and Albany will all benefit from being able to practice on, they won't have to go to Walker and Denham to do their track and field practices anymore. They'll be able to do it at a local area. We'll also be able to do track and field events there as well, tournaments or whatever, is the parish tournament and things like that there as well. So that's a big deal for the high school and for all the schools really. The last thing that we're looking at is an expansion of the cafeteria at the upper lower. So right now, our upper lower in Albany has one of the we feed one of the most kids in the parish. It's very overwhelmed, and it's also in what we talked about earlier. It's in a 100+ year old building. And so we're going to renovate the existing cafeteria and also build a new cafeteria so that so the upper and the lower lunch times are separated out so they can have two separate lunch rooms there. And that's what the half-cent sales tax is going to go for now.
Gotcha. So let's try to take each piece of this in turn. Thank you for the overview.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing that you've learned, not just from Dim Springs Elementary being completed, and of course the South Side Mega Campus south of this building here on Hatchell Lane is currently under construction, but during the fall and into the winter, Denham started new construction after that passed,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course y'all are starting to get proposals for your usual summer work, and you started looking at those prices and said, "Oh, we can't do this." Is that
Right.
kind of how that worked out?
Exactly. We're looking at a what had started out to be a $14 million campus over here is at 19 million now and is looking towards 20 million.
Right.
And we have the funding available to maintain that, but it's just not going to be feasible with what we were looking at 2 years ago when this whole project started from the ground floor. It would have been more than enough to cover it. But
Sure.
what has happened over the last 2 years and the changes in pricing and workforce and all that kind of stuff has really just priced us out of being able to do what we really want. So we're going to have to turn and do what we need.
Right. What you need, what's practical, what you can afford.
Correct.
And so one of the questions, and for those wondering and those who watch our podcast, Mr. David Gray is sitting off camera, firing off questions.
Hello.
Yes, he says hello. One of the things that he asked, and I want to re-ask before we started, is, are y'all going to keep that land?
The land that we purchased on the north side of Albany, we are going to keep it. It is my desire to see a campus built there at one point in time. So sooner or later, when prices change and when our availability when we have the availability to actually do that project, it is a prime area that we own both sides of the street. So we have 20 acres on one side and 12 acres on the other side. If we had to build campuses out there, there's a multitude of things that we can do with that area. And even if it's not a campus, there are other projects that we can actually do. So at this point in time, we plan on keeping the property and hopefully revisiting the school expansion at some point in time.
Sure. So before we get into the gym and the track and that kind of thing, I do want to talk about something that you specifically brought up last time, which you talked about last year, was the cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
That just seemed like such a huge, I guess you could say, endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Lunch started at 10 and ran to almost 1 o'clock.
Correct. After 1.
After
Yeah.
1. So, I mean, a new cafeteria, and it's important to note that with a new cafeteria, you're having to hire new cafeteria staff,
Mm-hmm.
you're having to buy more food, that kind of thing. So, and of course, there's the utility cost of running different cooking
Mm-hmm.
implements. So, kind of talk us through what it's like budgeting for something like that.
Okay, so luckily in this parish, we've built many cafeterias. So
Sure.
as far as what's needed in a cafeteria, we have that down.
Right.
Pricing this stuff out, just like everything else, the prices are going to be a little bit more expensive. But with the amount that we'll be getting with the half-cent sales tax and what we already have, I think it'll be a feasible project. We have a location, which was an old hallway in the lower, that we're going to demolish that entire building, and we have some grassy area beside it, so we'll have an expanded area to put back the new building. So what I'm hoping to see is a cafeteria on the west side, which would be the new cafeteria for the lower elementary, and then have possibly a couple of classrooms on the east side of it to make use of that space.
Gotcha.
And then, in addition to that, the existing cafeteria is in desperate need of upgrade and updating. We're having some issues there where uh, replace all the ceiling tiles in it, and there's some equipment that's getting to the end of its life cycle that we're going to need to replace. So, upgrading that cafeteria and making it better,
Sure.
and then creating the new cafeteria so that these lunches can be split.
So the older one, renovating that would primarily for upper elementary, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So, Mr. David Gray was saying, if you can't hear, because I noticed your decibels are a little low over here, he was asking, would the current cafeteria stay for upper elementary students, which you said it would,
Yes.
and the new cafeteria would be for
the
the lower elementary. And this way, kids can eat closer to the lunch time.
Right.
So, which would be helpful. I'm sure y'all are sending a lot of kids home hungry.
Well, I mean, if you eat at 10 o'clock and you get home at 3:30, that's 5 hours.
That's a long time for a kid.
For a kindergarten first grader, yes.
Yes. So this will better nutritional standards, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
So the other thing that I want to talk about, we had a long line of coaches from Denham Springs High School come in here to talk about their new facilities. One of the things they brought up was transportational safety, especially baseball, softball, and track. They were having to go all over the place to try to find a place to practice. Baseball, softball had to go to North Park. Track had a small facility at Denham, but most of the time they went to North Park as well.
Right.
There's logistical issues, there's safety issues, that kind of thing. So having, obviously I'm talking about the track. Let's clarify that.
Yeah.
Talking about the new track that you're proposing, I mean, what would that mean, not just for those items, logistics and safety, but having an actual track facility on that side of the parish for these kids?
Okay, so personal story. My daughter ran track when she was in high school. And when they were practicing, they had to practice on the asphalt. There just was no track for them to run on. And when she was doing long jump and triple jump, there was a very small, and it was old triple jump area. But there was no area to practice for shot put, discus, and javelin. Not really. They were doing it in the what they're considered the practice field for the football. But there's no real, because they can't get distance, they can't get measurements, stuff like that. There's no real area for them to practice those three things. There was a pole vault area that has been in disarray for several years now. So it's not there. That's a huge safety issue. Pole vault is one of the more dangerous track and field events. So
Sure.
There you can't mess around with the safety of that. So having a one state-of-the-art facility where when they're running their practice runs, they're actually running on the, not turf, but on the asphalt, not asphalt. There's a special track component that they'll be so they're running on what they'll be competing on, and they'll be practicing in the same environment that they'll be competing in. And that brings a whole lot to, helping these kids become better at what they're doing.
Sure. And like you said, I mean, not just from transportation, obviously anybody that can actually practice on campus is currently, there's some safety concerns.
Sure, absolutely.
So looking to alleviate those issues as well.
Do you all have a place where?
So in the
Mr. David Gray asked, what would be the location of the track?
So the track would constitute almost the entire area of the practice field. So where the football field is now, in between the football field and the middle school, there is a large area that they use as a practice field. The middle school uses it for their PE events, or their PEs, their daily PEs, and that would be the location for it.
Gotcha.
And it would still be usable. That was the other thing. It would still be usable for the middle school and the high school to do PE in an outside environment.
Gotcha. So one of the things we haven't yet talked about is, when is the election?
The election is April. April, I believe, 29th.
29th?
23rd? It's either the 23rd or the 29th. It's somewhere in that area. But
okay.
Yeah.
And it is a half-cent sales tax?
Correct.
Drop the property millage.
Correct. The millage is gone. The sales tax is the only thing on the ballot.
And these are mostly facility renovations and upgrades that are either safety issues or community requests, correct?
Correct. Absolutely. Now, one of the other things I wanted to say is we're going to have a community event to discuss this, to get any other input from the community. Be looking for this to come through your kids, because we'll give the handouts to the kids and let them bring them to the parents. And it's going to be sometime mid-March.
Okay.
We haven't got a solid date yet, but we'll solidify that date. We'll send that date out through the normal channels, through Power School and all the places, the phone announcements, the LPSB announcement system, and to let you know when that actual event's going to be, so that you can attend, put your input. And anybody that has any input right now, please feel free to call me.
Sure. And that would be at the school.
They can call me on my cell phone number.
I'm sorry, I meant the gathering.
The gathering would be at the school. Yeah, we'll probably do it in the high school gym.
Gotcha. So be on the lookout for that announcement, and thank you for bringing that up. Anything you'd like to add before we wrap up here?
No, I think this is what we're trying to do is temper our needs and expectations with what's practical and what's economically feasible. So, and I know this seems, I hate to be evolving and changing so much in such a short period of time, but it's the world we live in now. And this is the most practical and most effective way, to utilize the money and to approach the constituency with what we need. So I appreciate everybody supporting this.
Sure. And again, this election will be in April, sometime in late April.
Yeah.
David will pull that date up for the story. But there will be a community event before that, sometime in March.
Mid-March, yes.
Please be on the lookout for that announcement. And, please remember that a lot of times this is for the kids.
Absolutely.
And every piece of this is trying to alleviate some kind of pressure point that the Albany school system's facing. And, of course, it's a pivot from what you originally intended. But like you said, these days the cost of everything just seems to be slowly but steadily rising over the last 2 years. So, and, of course, a slow and steady rise over 2 years equates to a rather large rise.
Right.
So, sir, if you will please introduce yourself as we head on out here.
Thank you so much for having me today, McHugh. My name is Devin Gregoire. I am the school board member for Albany District 9.
And my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news, and we were joined by news reporter and lifestyle editor, Mr. David Gregoire, firing off questions from the director's chair over there. And please remember, the news is on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print, $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We appreciate you joining, listening, and watching, and we will see you next time.